Well, Justin Trudeau is self-hiding without a doctor's note. He's been staying at home for about 4 months, but that hasn't kept him out of trouble. In fact, I think he's gotten used to the lack of scrutiny and accountability, not having Parliament sit as usual, not having press that aren't hand-picked by him ask him questions, and so his behavior has gotten even worse with the risks that are innate to his character. He's a rich man. He inherited money. He's the third generation of Trudeaus that hasn't worked. Well, actually, his grandpa was the last Trudeau that ever worked for a living. So he's used to things coming easily. He has an entitlement mentality, but I think it just got out of control. As you've seen recently, he personally was part of the cabinet decision to steer $900 million to a questionable charity called We Charity, W-E, run by the Kielburger brothers. But it turned out that that $900 million was handpicked, sole sourced, not open to competition, and that we would get millions of dollars for handling that, and that the money was for volunteers. You don't pay volunteers. So many strange questions that begged more questions, and finally, we panicked and said, we don't want the deal after all. But questions continued, investigations continued. We hired lawyers to growl at reporters. In an unusual turn of events, reporters growled back. And now we see this shocking headline today, broken almost simultaneously by a number of different media. The We Charity that Trudeau intervened to send $900 million through, well, they have been secretly paying Trudeau's mother, Margaret Trudeau, and his brother, Alexandre Sacha Trudeau, $250,000 to his mom, more than $30,000 to his brother, all secret, none of it disclosed. A massive scandal, surely just the tip of the iceberg. Joining us now to talk about this, and we will talk about other things too, is our friend Lorne Gunter, senior columnist with the Edmonton Sun. Lorne, the We Day, it's a big deal here in Toronto, but it's in other cities. It's basically emptying out the junior highs and high schools to come and cheer for Liberal celebrities. Trudeau, his wife, his mom. It always felt like a Liberal rally. Little did we know that it was actually a way to funnel cash into the Trudeau family pockets.
Yeah, does it surprise me that the revelation that that We Charity has been paying speaking fees to Margaret Trudeau and Sacha Trudeau? No. Does it surprise me that it was done on the QT so that nobody knew about it? No, it doesn't surprise me. Nothing in this scandal surprises me. The biggest problem, though, of course, is, the We Charity is welcome to pay whatever private citizens it wants to speak at its function. But the problem is, undoubtedly the Prime Minister knew when this proposal to give We control over 900 million tax dollars, nearly $1 billion tax dollars, and pay it nearly $20 million in administration fees. When this decision came to the cabinet, he now admits he did not recuse himself. He took part in the discussions. He did vote. So that's where the real problem is. We could find out they've been paying all sorts of people who have close affection with their charity. That's okay. But it's when it's the Prime Minister's mother and brother, and the Prime Minister surely knew about it, and then the Prime Minister goes and makes a decision about giving a sole source contract, no competitive bidding, no one else asked, a sole source contract to the We Charity, which he has also been closely connected to. Between 2012 and 2017, he was the keynote speaker / host at a number of We Day rallies. In fact, the morning after he was elected in 2015, one of his first events was a We Day rally. So he's very, very close. His wife is even closer. She's an official ambassador of the We Charity and hosts a podcast that the charity has. I mean, their connections go back almost a decade, perhaps longer than a decade, and they are very, very close. They're very simpatico too, ideologically. As you said, their We Day rallies look like liberal evangelical tent shows. It's like it's preaching to young people that they need to go and change the world, and go on we-sponsored education trips to third world countries so they can learn to be humble. It's really, it does have sort of almost a cultish kind of feel to it when you look at online, you look at these rallies, and all of that together means the Prime Minister surely should have known that he was in a conflict of interest when he spoke in favor of this contract at the cabinet and voted on. Now, we can go even further back, a couple of weeks before that. His office he still claims that it was the bureaucracy that came forward and said, cabinet, we think the best people to handle this contract is the We charity. Well, even the CBC last week had an extensive piece talking to people in the philanthropic community in Canada, in the different charitable organizations, saying, we don't think We has enough contacts locally around the country to actually perform this task of distributing $900 million to students who work for charities during the summer. There's the YMCA, there's the United Way, there are any number of other organizations that have the infrastructure available and have the ability. That also puts a lie to one of the Liberal talking points on this, and that is that We was deemed by the bureaucracy to be the only charity that could do this. I mean, there's so much about this that just smells that it's very, very hard to believe Trudeau did not know what was going on early on, and should have done something about it. Mario Dion, who is the ethics commissioner, who found Trudeau in violation of the Ethics Act for the SNC Lavalin affair, is now investigating this. I can't say that for sure that he will find another ethics breach, but if there is an ethics breach by Trudeau on this, that means the Aga Khan private island trip, SNC Lavalin, and if this one happens, also the We charity, he would have been guilty 3 times of violating the Ethics Act. Surely a man with any shame at all would have to resign. But you watch, he will not have any shame. The party will build their wagons around him, and Liberal voters from one end of the country to the other will excuse this.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.